Welcome to the second part of the Brandwatch tutorials. In this installment we will look at how to perform basic competitor analysis. As you monitor a brand or product, you probably want to compare it with some of its competitor. To do this, I will show you how to create a query group, see the amount of buzz, and the buzz over time. As an example, let's assume that you are interested in Brandwatch's hometown of Brighton. We can try to compare it with the neighboring towns of Lewes and Eastbourne. To do this, we will use queries that we had already created for this, for example, Lewes. To be more accurate, we use and Sussex to make sure that the three mentioned are comparable. This is not strictly necessary, but for the sake of this tutorial, it is a nice and simple way to get comparable and relevant results. The next step is a new one. You need to create three queries. A group for these three queries. You can do this using the Setup button and then clicking on Create a Query Group. This will open a form where you can enter a name for the group, for example, Sussex Towns. Then, enter the name of each of the queries in the autocomplete text field underneath, and click the query name once it appears in the drop-down list. This will add the query to the list on the right-hand side. Once all the three queries are added, click on Create Group. Once you click on Create Group, your query group will immediately be created. Then you can click on the cross and close the form. Now that queries are ready, let's compare the amount of buzz online mentioned that the three queries has. To do this, create a new blank workspace by clicking on Create Empty Workspace. Then look below Add Components to Workspace and hover your mouse on Volume. You will see a small message saying that the volume for query group component is also available. This is the component we are interested in. Click on this link to add that component to your new workspace. The next step is to configure the new component. In its Control section, in the Query Group drop-down, select your Sussex Towns group. Then, underneath, click 1M, that means 1 month. Finally, click Load Data. This will tell the component to compare your group of queries over the last month. The component will now show a table with the overall number of mention, volume for each query, the volume for each sentiment, positive, negative and neutral, and what share of mention, sometimes called share of voice, each query has. At time of writing, Brighton has more than 70% of the total volume. You can use the More widget to hide or show individual columns. This is a standard feature of all tables in Brandwatch components. Another standard feature of Brandwatch component is the multiple views. Click on Change View and you will see a choice of three options. Data table, the default view that you are already seeing. Bar chart, this will turn the component into a bar chart. Pie chart, this will turn the component into a pie chart. At this point, if you want to export any of these views into one of your reports, the simplest is probably to use the Screen Grabber utility. If you are using Windows, we recommend using the snipping tool. If you are using Firefox, you can use FireShot. We are now ready to go over the buzz over time. You can also compare the buzz of the queries over time using the History for Query Groups component. Just as above, add that component by choosing it from the list on the left-hand side of the screen. It will appear once you hover on the History. You will need to configure your new component in exactly the same way as previously. Pick the query group in the drop-down menu, Sussex Towns for example, click on 1 month and then click on Load Data. The default view of this component is a simple table again. Use the Change View widget, switch to the Graph view to get a nicer representation of the data. You can resize the component by clicking and dragging on its bottom right corner. At the time of writing, we can see that all queries have some spikes in volume of different days. In particular, Brighton has a large spike of volume on the 18th of October 2010. Overall, Brighton is a fairly consistently higher than both Lewis and Eastbourne. Note that you can close the control part of the components by clicking on the cross icon. To reopen the controls, click on the Control button. You can also remove components by clicking on the cross icon, although you will then be asked for confirmation. And as always, you should now save your workspace in case you want to use it again later. Follow the same steps as at the end of the first tutorial.